The sun was setting over the suburban sprawl of Minneapolis, casting long shadows across the quiet street where Ethan Davis lived. At 40 years old, Ethan had grown accustomed to the routine of his life, the same job, the same friends, and the same unfulfilled dreams. He worked as an insurance adjuster, a job that paid the bills but never sparked passion in him. Each day felt like a repetition of the last, blending into a blur of monotony. Ethan had once been ambitious. He had dreams of traveling the world, starting his own business, and making a difference in people's lives. But as the years passed, life got in the way. Bills, responsibilities, and fear of the unknown kept him in place, never venturing beyond the familiar. Deep down, he knew he had settled, but he didn't know how to break free. One late evening, after another dull day at the office, Ethan decided to take a different route home. As he drove down an unfamiliar road, he spotted an old building on the outskirts of town. It was an antique shop, nestled between two vacant lots, its sign hanging crookedly, "The Catalyst." The shop seemed out of place in the modern city, as if it had been forgotten by time. Curious, Ethan pulled over and walked inside. The shop was dimly lit, filled with odd trinkets and ancient artifacts. Air smelled of aged wood and dust, the hint of something else, something Ethan couldn't quite place. Behind the counter stood a tall, slender man with piercing blue eyes. He looked at Ethan as if he had been expecting him, said the man with a smooth and deep voice.
"Welcome to the Catalyst. I'm Gideon. How can I help you?"
Ethan hesitated for a moment.
"I'm not sure," he admitted. "I just felt drawn to this place."
Gideon smiled knowingly.
People often find their way here when they're searching for something deeper than what they have.
Ethan looked around the shop, at the dusty shelves and peculiar items.
"What is this place?"
Gideon stepped out from behind the counter and motioned for Ethan to follow him.
"This is a place of transformation," he explained as they walked through the aisles. "People come here when they're ready to change, when they're ready to become who they were always meant to be."
Ethan felt a chill run down his spine.
"How do you know that's what I need?"
Gideon stopped in front of a small,
unassuming object on a pedestal, a plain silver coin. "It's in your eyes, the yearning for something more. This coin," Gideon said, picking it up and holding it out to Ethan, "is called the Catalyst. It's said to have the power to trigger profound change in whoever possesses it."
Ethan stared at the coin, skeptical.
"How does a coin change anything?"
Gideon smiled again, that same knowing smile.
"It's not the coin itself that changes you. It's what it represents, the choice to change, the decision to step out of your old life and into a new one. The Catalyst will guide you, but the journey is yours to take."
Ethan felt a strange pull toward the coin. Despite his doubts, he reached out and took it. It was surprisingly warm in his hand, almost as if it were alive. He slipped it into his pocket, and Gideon nodded approvingly. "Remember," Gideon said as Ethan turned to leave.
"Change is not always easy, but it's always possible."
That night, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about the coin. He sat on his couch, turning it over in his hands, wondering if it really had any power at all. But as the days passed, he began to notice subtle shifts in his life. First change came at work. Ethan had always been quiet in meetings, content to let others take the lead. But one day, during a particularly tense discussion about a difficult client, Ethan found himself speaking up. His voice was steady, confident. He offered a solution that no one else had considered, and to his surprise, his idea was implemented. His colleagues started to see him in a new light. The first time in years, Ethan felt respected and valued at work. He realized that the only thing holding him back had been his own fear of failure. The coin in his pocket served as a constant reminder that change was possible, if he was willing to take the risk. The next change came in his personal life. Ethan had always been introverted, preferring quiet nights at home to social gatherings. But with the coin's influence, he began to push himself out of his comfort zone. He joined a local hiking group, something he had always wanted to do but never had the courage to try. Through the group, he made new friends, people who shared his interests and inspired him to explore new possibilities. One weekend, the group planned a trip to the Boundary Waters, a remote wilderness area in northern Minnesota. Ethan had never been much of an outdoorsman, but something inside him urged him to go. The trip was challenging, with long days of paddling and nights spent in the cold. But Ethan felt more alive than he had in years. The experience opened his eyes to the beauty of nature and the thrill of adventure. The biggest change, however, came in Ethan's mindset. For the first time in his life, he stopped seeing himself as a victim of circumstance. He realized that he had the power to shape his own destiny. The Catalyst had shown him that change wasn't something that happened to you. It was something you created for yourself. Months passed, and Ethan's life continued to transform. He started a side business, something he had always dreamed of but never thought he could pull off. It wasn't easy, but the lessons he had learned from the Catalyst gave him the strength to keep going, even when things got tough. One evening, Ethan returned to the Catalyst shop to thank Gideon. When he arrived, the shop was gone. In its place was an empty lot, overgrown with weeds and forgotten by the world. Ethan stood there for a long time, coin warm in his pocket, smile on his face. He realized then that the shop, like the coin, had only been a catalyst, a spark to ignite the fire of change. True power had always been within him. As he walked away, Ethan knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, he had the strength to face them. The man he had once been was gone, replaced by someone stronger, braver, and more determined. And he had no intention of ever going back.